Okay, good evening. Welcome to the part 3 of Button a Day. Sorry it's a bit later than usual. Today's been a bit hectic, but hope everyone's keeping safe, keeping busy, and yeah, let's get cracking. So my name's Dan Rutter. I've been working in the film industry for the last 3 years as a CAD modeler, taking concepts and fleshing them out to be machined or printed, that kind of thing. We're going to look at Hunt Doherty's futuristic hot rod, which is really cool. Check him out on ArtStation, loads of really nice concepts on there. It looks like a scary project, but we are gradually breaking it down bit by bit, day by day, and yeah, don't panic, we'll get through this together. So let's open up Fusion. This is where we got to now. In yesterday's video, I was desperately trying to show you guys how to do a 3D spline for our ribbed hose feature that we have down here, and for the life of me I couldn't work out why it wasn't working. Weirdly, and I'm just going to cover this straight now, or straight away rather. Let's turn on our edges again so we can see what's going on. There we go. We have to activate the ability to do 3D sketches in Fusion. So if we go up to click on your username at the top and then into preferences, there we go, and under design we've got here allow 3D sketching of lines and splines, and we just want to tick that and choose apply, followed by OK. So now should be able to click on any of the points on our spline tool and then move them in 3D space. You can see it's now changed our pattern along a curve feature to match that spline as we've now changed it. So yeah, that's all good. I'm happy that now works. So if we call up our reference image, what we're going to try and cover today, zoom a little bit more, okay, is this hose section here that we've obviously started. We're going to make some, goes up around here by the looks of it, we'll make a nice little round end cap on this side, and we'll put a round end cap on this face here, and then we'll change that spline so we get a nice neat curve coming round of it. That'd be a good thing to do, I think. I'm reading this space here as a void. Maybe that's just shadow in there. That would, maybe there's something going on here. Again, we'll try and interpret that. We'll try and get into a bit more of this back section here, just so we can start sort of joining all of this up. Yeah, okay, let's go. So I'm going to wind backwards through our timeline. So if you've got a timeline that gets quite long and it kind of fills up over the length of the bottom of your screen, you can use these little controls here. So this will move straight to the end, and then we can find our little pickup point so we can move backwards. Let's get rid of our mirror. That's our pattern along a curve. That's we'll go to there. So we've just gone to before we drew our spline. And that's because I want to make some reference circles, and then we're going to go back to the spline, and then we'll move the spline to match up with those circles. So if we start a new sketch, click on a face. I'm just going to draw in a little section in here. Some of that, we can give that a dimension by pressing D. Make that 90mm. We can reference it to a line so we can move it about later. Okay, so this sometimes happens. I'm sketching up here. Now this will be because we now have 3D sketch enabled, which is here. Okay, we all make mistakes. Let's delete that. Start again, click our circle, we'll turn off 3D sketch, then that way what we're sketching is always staying on this plane. Spin that back round. $90mm. Can reference that. So from the outside edge to the center. I'll change that to 0. What I'm going to do is I'm going to finish that sketch. I'm going to delete that sketch. And most importantly, we're not going to panic. So, create a sketch. Choose this plane. Have 3D sketch turned off. Specify our distance, so it's a 90mm circle. There we go. So because I started the sketch with 3D sketch enabled, that's why it stayed like it even though I deactivated it. And then we can change the height. I'll bring that down a little bit, say 130. Finish that sketch. Extrude the shape just a little bit, maybe 15mm. Make it a new body. Okay, just got a little chamfer detail around it, something like that. Okay, that'll do for starters. That's where our hose is going to plug into. I'm going to put one on the side here. Now we don't have anything to draw that on at the moment, so we might just quickly block out this shape underneath. So go back to Fusion, start a new sketch on this underside face, and we'll just pop in a shape for now. Something about that. 550. Let's try that again. Double click 550. There we go. I want this line to be in line with this. Now, if I knew that measurement, I could specify that here. Or what we can do is use relationships. So if we select one line, hold down Shift, click on the line we want to have a relationship with, and then we'll choose horizontal, vertical. Or we can do coincident. Select this line, hold down Shift, and choose this line. Why does nothing like me today? Let's try this again. equal to, parallel to, perpendicular to, collinear. This line and this line. Do you know what? Let's just add a dimension. 550. 500. Okay. Finish our sketch. Go up to extrude. Select our object. Bring it down. I'm going to leave it as a new body because I'm going to go back and slice this up and make it look a bit cooler. I just want a surface at the moment to work on. So press OK. Once again, create new sketch. Select our surface. Draw ourselves a 90mm circle. Once happy with that, finish the sketch. Extrude the shape. Did 15mm before. Keep it as a new body. Okay. Add a little chamfer. Okay. So now if we move our little timeline along one, we have the sketch for our spline. And if we edit that sketch, we should be able to select these two parts here. We can delete this relationship. Tell you what we'll do. We'll come back again. And we're going to create a construction plane. And we are going to do this as a axis through a cylinder. Do that. Okay. I'm going to create another one of those over here. Okay. Back to our spline tool. Edit the sketch. Select these both points by holding down Shift. So what we're going to do, we're going to finish the sketch. We're going to grab our move tool here. And we're going to manually just place these in. We shouldn't have to do this. And I won't lie to you, it's annoying that we're having to do this now. All of that, we'll grab this end, move that down, doesn't want to move. Okay. Edit that sketch. Finish that sketch. What we're going to try, we'll do another one. We'll do create a sketch. We're going to select this face. Use our spline tool. I'm going to select from the center out to a point, and then back to a point. And this time we will turn on 3D sketch. Create a sketch, select a face, 3D sketch is on, spline tool, I can select that point there, we'll come out to this point here, rotate round, snap, and we're going to come in to that point there. Oh, magical. Double click, and now we can grab hold of these endpoints, these green points here, and we should be able to move those around. We have actually created a 3D sketch, which is something at least. Select this tool and this line, make them tangent to each other. That's what I'm on about. Okay. And then we can select this line and this line, and again make them tangent. Okay. Alright. Finish our sketch. Now to save any confusion, because there's bound to be some, we will hide our spline that we've got here. We'll click on our sketches tab, we can click on our spline, and we can just hide that. And we're good. So let's go through making our pattern along a curve again. So that was our original one, and I'm just going to delete all of these features, including the combine. So delete. Yes, I do wish to delete. Okay. Create a sketch. We don't need to worry about making one tangent or in line with the spline, because we've already made this spline in line with this face. So we'll start a sketch on that. We'll do our one rib of our hose. Let's make it like 60 mil. We will go finish sketch. Extrude. Make sure we pick the right shape. There we go. Give that a thickness. Let's make it a little bit chunkier this time around. Let's go 12. Now that's my thing of always pressing enter after I type in a number, and that not necessarily being the correct thing to do. So we'll edit our feature, and instead of join, we'll have that as a new body. So we can now add a couple of fillets again, so we can just make that look like a rib. That looks good. Okay. And then under create and pattern, we have pattern on path. We want to pattern a body, so we can select the body and then we can select the path. We want to pattern across the entire distance of the curve. Just rotate round and we can just drag this around like so to the end. And again, you see how these are obviously pointing the wrong direction. It's because we've got the orientation set to identical. So we change that to path direction and now they will follow the path around nicely. And then we just up the number of repeats until everything intersects. I think we did about 80 last time. That looks pretty good. Once we're happy with that, we press OK. And there's our hose. So if you remember, we now have a huge list of bodies running down here. So we just want to check where our first one is. So we can select it. And that is body 182. And our last one is bound to be at the bottom of the list. Yep, 261. So we can go to combine. 181. So just press down shift and select the toolbar. Okay, right, so I did this last time as well. Target body, we have to select a target. In this case we'll keep it as this end one, and then we have the tool bodies, which are the bodies we wish to add to it. So we'll select 181, no, 182, there we go, get rid of that one. And then come back to the list, hold down shift, and that should select everything. Everything's set to join, we can go OK. So as we were doing earlier, we can now go back to our spline tool, this one here. We can choose move, we can grab hold of this bottom part, edit the sketch, select that part. Oh, ever had one of those days. Hide the body, let's do that. Edit the sketch. I like it as it is. Right, okay, let's start adding a bit of a chamfer detail to this. Now, we should do that using the chamfer tool. And that should be quite interesting if it just goes slightly beyond where our plug is. Instead we just have that now running straight back in. So let's start a new sketch. And here, go to create, project. I want that information there, so I've selected that face. Okay. Finish the sketch and extrude. run that in like so. In this case we'll have that join. Nice. So there's a detail just on here, this piece. Let's make that line a little bit bigger. There we go, this piece here. Now what I'm thinking is we'll take a general shape, extrude it across, and then we can use the draft tool just to change the angle, just so we get this sort of subtle slope running down from it. So let's choose our front sketch. We'll draw a shape. We'll turn off 3D. I don't like this 3D sketch, it's really weird. We'll draw a shape, it looks like maybe it's something like that. Again, just sketching stuff out, not being too precious about it. Finish our sketch, extrude, choose our shape. We want that to be a new body. I'm going to change the offset. It starts slightly further back than that, so maybe go -500. Yep, something like that. Okay. Now we looked at the draft tool before, briefly. We'll have a look at it again now. So under Modify and Draft, the first face you select is the one you would like to stay at its orientation, and then the second face is the one that we're going to move. We get this nice little tool here. Just notch that around just a smidge, maybe -5 degrees. Oh, too much. -2, -1. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Click OK. Do the same thing again. Draft tool. This face followed by this face, and then we'll do the same thing, -1. Okay. Gives us that. We can add a little chamfer on here. Yep. Okay. Sort of starting to look like something. Okay. So I said we would look at this round section here, just so we've got something going at the back, and then we can work out how we're going to connect this front section to whatever's going to happen at the back here. So we can look at sort of where that is. Looks a little bit further down, almost resting, almost at a tangent angle to this, maybe a little bit higher. So let's just draw something in and see how it looks. So create sketch, choose our plane, make sure 3D sketch is off unless you need it. I'm going to go about here, or maybe a bit smaller than that. Let's try 400. Hit escape to come out of our dimension tool, and then I should be able to pick it up here. See, move it about. So sort of pop that there like so. Finish our sketch. Extrude our shape. Now because it's intersecting one of the other bodies here, you know, it thinks you want to cut it. We don't. We'll do it as a another new body. And if we do, instead of distance, we choose up to object, and then we selected our center plane, it's going to take us straight to the middle, so when we mirror it, those two parts are actually going to meet up. Now, I think it should sit ever so slightly proud of this face. So we've got a couple of options. We can either do the offset to the plane and set it to a minus, or we do also have an option of doing a two-sided tool. So now we have all our settings for side 1, which is what we've got going towards the center, and then we have our options again for side 2. So in this case we can just set a distance of maybe 20 mil minus 20 mil. When we're happy with that, press OK. So again, we can add a little chamfer in here, something like that. Okay, I kind of think that this needs a little bit more detail than here, although it looks like it might have some detail on it. Let's zoom right in. So we've got this little brace arm coming across, there's a little line, maybe this pixel here is like a little screw fixing or something like that. So let's have a little look at what we can do. Create a sketch on this face. It will draw our circle. This is going to be for that little sort of split line. We use our offset tool, something like that, -4. Now we've said that is a 4mm offset, but what we've not specified is the diameter for that outside circle. What's nice is at the moment it's at 302.654919. Nobody's going to machine anything to that kind of tolerance without a lot of money. So we'll change that to 300, and we've still kept our 4mm offset. So that's quite handy, being able to define things like that and then tweak the outside dimensions. Finish our sketch. Do an extrude. Zoom in so we can select the little space between the two lines. And then this is one of the few instances we do actually want it to cut. So we'll do say a 6mm deep channel. Now usually I will say if you've got a channel that's 4mm wide, to cut deeper is an awkward process because you're obviously using a very small cutter. So quite often you have no problems doing a channel that is the same depth as the width, but this instance, you know, we might end up having to make that a little bit shallower. In fact, let's do that. Let's make that a bit shallower now. So we'll edit feature, we'll change that from -6, we'll keep that to -4. Then we know we're not going to have a problem. And if we're worried that in our overall design that little channel detail isn't going to really stand out too well now, a neat little trick is to add a very small chamfer to it, maybe just 1/2 mil. Let me set that to maybe let's go 1 mil. I'm used to making smaller things. Let's edit that feature. So I would like to select 2 lines, this line and this line. Ooh. So Fusion is constantly being updated, and that is only a good thing. I would like the option to be able to add lines to my selection. So let's try that again. Before we set any depths, we select our lines. There we go, 1 mil. Enter. So that would now just read as a wider line. So let's let's do that sort of little screw detail. So again, we'll do create a sketch on this face. Just do a little something like that. It's more of a bolt than a screw at 20mm, but never mind. Finish sketch. Extrude. Select our profile. Just want that to cut through. Maybe like that. Let's go -33. We can add a little fillet just around this outside edge here. And now this is a great use of a pattern again. So under create and pattern, we've got a circular pattern, and we want to do features, and we want to do this cut like we've just done, and this fillet. Next thing it asked is the axis. Now it doesn't have to be an axis line like we created earlier, it can just be an outside circle. So any of these circles, you see they're all highlighting up, they would be fine to use. So click on that. There you go, it's patterned 3 of those around. You do have the option of do you want to do a full circle or do you want to do a particular angle. And odd numbers always look nicer than even numbers. So let's do, well, I'm saying that 3, 6 doesn't look too bad. 9 kind of looks cool. Let's go for that and press OK. So you've instantly got a little bit of detail on the go there. Let's have a look at that sort of bracing arm that we had going across here. See what that's all about. Let's zoom in on our reference again. So this looks like a little sort of a square bracket. This little arm up here, some holes cut in it, maybe some sort of pin and something to receive that pin on our body here. Okay, so you know what I'm going to say, let's create a sketch. Pick this face, just draw that sort of box shape, something like that maybe. Yep. Just going to move this over here. Go back to our line tool. Actually, let's put a circle up here so we know what we're sort of aiming for. I think we'll do that as a 90mm again. It's sort of in the same language as these. We could do a little offset line coming in from that, so that's our sort of outside shape. That's going to be our plate there, so that is -20. And then we had, let's take a sort of a center line here. Do our offset tool again. Do 25. Offset this side, 25. I think we could actually do, we know we want these to be equal. This may or may not work. It certainly works in SolidWorks. Is we can type formulas into these bars as well as doing simple sums and maths if you want to work something out on the fly. We can press equals and then select another measurement. Yep, no, that's not going to happen on this one. That's something that hopefully they can add to it at a later date. So anyway, we'll do -25 on that as well then. So we looked at yesterday about extending lines. Save having to draw another line through here. We can go into modify and extend and just make sure everything kind of meets up nicely. Like so. And now we can finish our sketch. We will extrude all of that, so we have to select all these parts. This one, this one, this one, and this one. give that a thickness. Something like that. Now, it's usually good practice if you're going to manufacture this. You probably don't want this face inside here resting up exactly on this face here. So it's always good to just add a little offset, even if it's just a couple of mil. Okay. This all looks a bit weird. So we can go back, just double check on our reference, what do we think's going on in there. That one. Bit dark to see really. Now, that all looks really cool. Look forward to doing that tomorrow. We can do a fillet. This is certainly the strongest option. We're going to manufacture this. Bring that out. Something like that. That kind of looks cool. And if we really wanted to, we could do a smaller fillet on these edges here. Like that. Okay. So let's do some little inset details in here that we can then pattern down. So we'll start a sketch on this face. Just so we've got it for reference, we're going to project that line information. So again, under create, project, include, project. We can then select that face. Now we've got something that we can maybe offset, so we can say, okay, we want at least 8 mil of material clear through there. And if we just do a couple of horizontal lines, I think, something like that. Escape to stop drawing a line. And another one there. Click finish sketch. Go up to our extrude, select this segment, and we're just going to push it in by 6 mil. Minus 6. Like that. Again, we can sort of add a small fillet to these. So if this was going to be CNC'd, you always end up with a fillet on these internal corners because of the diameter of the cutter. So it's always useful to have these selected and something that you can then tweak and change as you communicate with the people who will be machining it for you. That's good, that's a 10 mil diameter. And then we can use our pattern feature. We're going to pattern the feature. And we're going to choose a direction. Now normally we've done horizontal lines, but in this instance we want to pattern in this direction. And then we can just drag that down like so. Now you'll notice weirdly in our little preview we're missing these corners. And that's because we've only selected one feature to pattern, that was the cut. So if we go back up to objects, we can then apparently not select. There we go. So you have to deselect your direction line before you can select another object. So we now have our cut and our fillet feature. And then we can do this. I only have bad days like this so that everyone following along who gets it right first time feels really smart. Again, I like odd numbers over even. I didn't think 3 was enough. 4 looks a bit weird. Let's up it to 5. Yeah. Okay. That's kind of starting to look pretty cool. Again, you know, my usual little trick, we'll just add a small chamfer around the tops of all of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. That doesn't have to be much. We're just going to go 3 mil. Too much. 2 mil. Yeah, it looks better. Okay. Suddenly, if we turn those lines off, that's just going to read nicer. The edges are going to hit the light or catch the light. You get these nice little shines. All of this, and it just means things don't look quite so flat and square, and it'll give you a more realistic render if that's your final sort of plan. Let's turn our lines back on. Shaded with visible edges only. And we'll just lastly make a pin that runs through this, and we'll put a plate in here to receive it. Kind of like to think that maybe these are holding the engines almost, dare I say, like pod racers. There's a little bit of flex as it sort of corners. Maybe these have a bit of movement on them, almost like the suspension, I suppose. So we'll do a new sketch. We will, in this instance, we won't just copy that information. We will redraw a pin, so I want it to be just ever so slightly smaller. So instead of 50, we will go 45. Finish our sketch. Extrude our pin. We're going to go straight into that. Let's set this to be a new body at the moment. And we will do an offset. Offset from object. I'm going to choose this object, and then we'll choose an offset of say 30 mil. And let's change this, instead of a distance, let's change that up to object. And that gives us that. So the advantage of doing everything rather than setting a distance, but more of a relationship of saying this has to go up to that object, or it's offset this far from the face of that object, is if we press OK, and I decide actually if this is going to be like a suspension for this, that's quite a weedy looking thickness. So again, if I click on any face of the feature that I want to edit, I can right click and choose edit feature. We had that 20 mil, but we had a 2 mil offset, so that's only 18 mil. So why don't we bump that up to be 26, and then OK. And what that's done is, so this distance here is still going to be the 30 mil that we specified, because the face that we made the relationship to has moved. So where that new body begins has also moved in relationship to it. Very confusing talking out loud. Add a little chamfer. I think I'm going to get a t-shirt with add a little chamfer made. 6 mil, there we go. We could add a locking pin, but that's all a little bit bizarre. I think we will add, we'll add something to that. I'm not sure what yet. I do want to make this a bit more robust, so let's do one more sketch. We'll click on this face here for now, rotate round so we can see what we're doing. I'm going to do a center rectangle just here. We select the center point. There we go, center point, and then up and round, something like that. I don't think it needs to be that wide, so I'm just going to slice it in half with a line. That'll do. So we'll finish the sketch. We'll go to extrude, And because we put that line through it, you know, I can select either side, which is quite useful. So we'll select this piece and this piece. I'll give that a thickness. That looks kind of cool. We'll do our offset. Do that minus 50. 50. So that'd be a new body. Maybe should be a bit more than that. No, you know what? Actually, what we'll do is we'll select the other parts here and here and here, so it can sit in there like that. Okay. I'll add some chamfers up here. Make them quite chunky. Something like that. Okay. So now it's probably a good idea if we start joining some of these bodies up. So we use our combine tool. We'll select this piece here, and I would like that to be connected to it, our pin to be connected to it, this top piece, and this little indent here. Choose OK. You see now it's inherited the same materials that we'd already coloured that one in. So let's do this entire top across here, so we should be able to edit that feature. Select all bodies and continue adding bodies. Like so. Okay. There we are. So we do our usual trick at the end of the day. We'll just mirror everything, make sure we're happy with the way it's looking. So we go to create and mirror. We're going to do bodies, select everything, and our mirror plane is just going to be that central plane there. Okay. Starting to remind me of like Panthra's tank from Thundercats, which is not necessarily a bad thing. So what we can do is we just pop this over here, bring up our reference, and we'll see. I'm wondering if our gap between these two is too wide. Maybe we have to bring those in a little bit closer. So we'll have a look at that tomorrow and what potential issues that might bring and the best way to deal with that. I hope everybody stays safe and yeah, look after each other.